And a pleasant good evening, everyone, and welcome back to another broadcast here on RioSportsLive.com. We are indoors, and we are in Edinburgh, Texas, for high school basketball as the girls' season officially gets underway here tonight for the Harlingen Lady Cardinals and the Edinburgh Lady Bobcats. I'm Joe Bowling, Evie Vasquez to my left-hand side. We're on the pregame show, and Evie, a lot of excitement for this basketball game. Two good basketball teams meet in the first game of the year.
Right, and the thing is that it really doesn't get too much better than this when you have two top 10 teams already ranked in the Valley going at it for the opening night of the season. So basketball groupies like myself, basketball lovers like myself, we get chills just being in here getting ready for a game like this.
JV game just concluded, which is why we're on so late. This was scheduled to start at 7:30, and here we are, 8:07, and there's still 12 minutes on the clock during the pregame here as the two teams are out taking the warm-ups. 45-36, the Harlingen JV won that JV game, and they were down 11-1 at one point in time. Coach Monsivais was up in the stands. Next thing I knew, she was on the bench. Next thing I knew, her team was coming back, and they eventually got the win. Let's take a look at these two ball clubs, and first of all, let's go back to last year. There was a lot of storylines on these basketball teams. Last year, Edinburgh finishes with a record of 31-9. Harlingen finishes off the season at 28-11, meaning they both went in the playoffs. You take a look at what they did in the playoffs, and Edinburgh beat Los Fresnos in a bi-district game. Harlingen was very familiar with that team. Harlingen beat PSJA North. Edinburgh High was familiar with that team. In the area round, it was a similar fate for both teams. Laredo United knocked off Edinburgh High in a 5-point battle, 58-53. South San Antonio knocked off Harlingen by 5 points, 83-78. That was an overtime game, and in that game, Harlingen had three starters that were not playing in that overtime period, and yet they still were right there in contention. Take a look at preseason polls coming into this season for these two teams. McCallum Memorial is number one, according to the writers, across the Rio Grande Valley. Edinburgh sits at the number 2 spot, Weslaco number 3, Harlingen number 4. Let's stop right there and talk about it, Evie, because of the fact that McCallum Memorial may indeed just be that upper-level team this year, but these two teams are certainly going to measure each other tonight to see if they too can compete at the top 4.
Right, and the thing is that you have very, very experienced players on both teams. When you talk about McCallum Memorial, you have the Talamante sisters coming in, and one of them is a senior, and the younger sister's a sophomore. So both teams have players who are experienced, who have been in the show per se. Let's talk a little bit about Edinburgh. They have 2 players out right now with ACL tears, but we know that once those 2 players come back, this is going to be a team that you're going to have to get through to go anywhere. Now with the new district realignments, they're going to make some noise, and that's been something that they've been trying to do, and they finally got the monkey off their back last year when they beat Los Fresnos, and they were able to get to the area round. So we're excited to see what Edinburgh is going to be able to bring, and Harlingen is a name that you're very common with. Harlingen is always in the playoffs. They're always in the hunt. So that's going to be something that we're going to have to see who has to go through who. So it should be a good season.
Harlingen's a deep basketball team, I'll tell you that right now, and they've got youth, they also have experience, but they're a deep squad, and they are going to try to play an up-tempo game if they play according to what Coach Monsivais always plays, and that means she'll use that depth to her advantage if possible. Take a look at last year. Again, it was 32-6A where Harlingen was sitting, and that's different this year, but last year they ended up being a 3 seed out of that district and yet made that run into that area round. Meanwhile, Edinburgh, 31-6A, ran the table, 14-0 last year. Now, both teams have reshuffled the district, and the big factor is that Weslaco exits 32-6A, enters 31-6A. Weslaco now becomes a district opponent against this Edinburgh team. And again, both teams look at that squad as one of the teams to measure. Why not? They're in the top 4 as well, sandwiched right there at the 3 spot between these two teams. So both familiar with Weslaco, and both are going to end up running into Weslaco, whether it be tournament play or in the Bobcats case, the Lady Bobcats will have them in district play.
Right, and the thing is that, again, yes, if you're Weslaco, you lose Emily Sign and Bri Peña. But again, when you have a tradition and you have a coach like Coach Fino who has things organized, who has their players prepared year in and year out, you know that they're going to make some noise as well. And you know they're going to be one of those teams that, as every year, they make their deep runs in the playoffs. So again, Edinburgh, Harlingen, the Westlakos, those are always teams that you're looking forward to seeing in the playoffs and that you know are basically guaranteed a spot in there because of what they bring in, not just 1 year, 2 years, but year after year after year.
So let's talk about the programs. Let's talk about what they did last year, because the stat line, if you go year by year on these teams, it looks similar. Edinburgh last year averaged 60 points a game. They also averaged 15 steals a game as I look at those two stat lines alone, and it tells me that they scored points and they also look to take the ball away. Harlingen averaged just about 5 points less than that per game, but their steals were up at 16.3, and then you factor in 12 assists for the Harlingen squad. And Evie, most of that came off of that high intense pressure. It's a steal, it's a pass, it's a layup, that's an assist.
And that's one thing from Harlingen. If anybody has seen them play, you know they're scrappy. You know they're big on pressure. You know they're big on defense. So they're going to be running that 1-2-2 that they're known for. And the thing with Harlingen is they're a scrappy team. They've never been, a team who's going to dominate you with height or dominate you, by being too much of a finesse or high-scoring team. It always has to come down to their defense and their will to just go out and take a game on their own terms. So Harlingen, again, their defense has always set the way, and again, Edinburgh is gonna see that tonight. I mean, no question. It's just something that they always bring.
Every year you have players that exit and new players that come in. Let's talk about the players that exit, and there's some big names. First, let's talk about Jayla Santa Maria, who on the Edinburgh side last year wrapped up a terrific career, 747 points, ranked number 1 in the RGB Sports Writers, All-Area Player of the Year. She's gone, but what a big factor she was for this squad, and she left a couple of sisters who are coming up in the ranks.
Right, and the thing is that these younger sisters were blessed to have role models and older sisters who basically paved the way for them, and we're able to see them play at a high IQ level, a high intensity and a high skill level. So we're not just myself or the fans, this coach, talking to Coach Salinas, he's excited to see what these younger sisters are going to be able to do as well. So it's something that is to see and see if they can follow those great basketball footsteps.
Meanwhile, the Harlingen Lady Cardinals are without the services this year of one Nadia Flores, the heart and soul of that team last year and for the previous 3 years before that. 16 points in her final game, was a major impact role model and just an overall player for the Harlingen program. That's according to Coach Monsivais. So she's gone. You have players stepping up. But again, Evie, if ever there was a team that made some noise in the offseason during the summer, it's this Harlingen squad who had all this youth that's coming up that's now going to be players.
Right, and the summers are basically where your seasons are won because of the fact that when it comes to girls basketball, there's so many things to combine and link together that you have to continue to play. You have to continue to get your hands on a basketball and just get after it, year round. So Harlingen, we got to see them play a couple of times this summer, and again, nothing away from what they do during the season. Pressure, 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 run, 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 layups, 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 and team chemistry is something that they build, and you always get that from them. So team chemistry is something that you could always expect, and they did not lose a beat from what we saw this summer.
Program history, let's take a look back historically for the Edinburgh. How about 1954? We found a unbeaten photo of a Lady Bobcat team, and again, tradition. You look at the banners all the way around this place, and it's no secret, Evie, that there's competitive basketball here, and it's been here for a long while.
Right, on the boys' side, you have a banner up here where one of their head coaches won, over 1,000 games, and then you had somebody like Coach Carmona who made their runs at the Sweet 16 for like 2 years in a row, when I was playing against Edinburgh back in the day, if you want to say as well. So I got to see my fair share of Edinburgh basketball play as a player and now as a coach and as a fan. So it's something that Edinburgh always thrives on as well. They have more pride than what some common schools have because of the fact that they have a rich tradition here in Edinburgh.
We're here at Edinburgh. It's Harlingen getting ready to take on the Lady Bobcats of EHS. Now we want to talk about our other broadcasts coming your way on Rio Sports. It all gets started at noon on Thursday. It's the La Jolla tournament. And again, that's going to be some exciting basketball for us, including Edinburgh making the jump from the Westlaco tournament to the La Jolla tournament. They'll be involved, not in our first day broadcast, but they'll be there, and they may be a contender for this tournament. It's going to be some fun broadcasting games up at Palmview.
They won a tournament last year. If I remember correctly, they won a tournament pretty easy last year. The Westlaco one, where they beat Westlaco to win the Westlaco, and then this year they have their eyes set on that La Jolla one as well, and they should be going back to Westlaco. But again, talking about La Jolla coming up first, they're going to be a favorite, and they're going to be a team who we should expect to see there in the final day on Saturday.
And, of course, football fans, take a look at our broadcast coming up and the games that are coming up in the Rio Grande Valley on Thursday is the final week of the regular season. And, yes, there are playoff implications in some of those broadcasts. As the football season will wrap up, basketball season is ramping up. Girls basketball here tonight. It's Harlingen taking on Edinburg. That's our pregame show. When Evie and I return, we'll get you set for the opening tip-off for the 2018 season. Let's take a look at our poll first. We had a poll on Rio Sports Facebook, and Evie, the votes say, on an election night, the votes say Harlingen wins this by a landslide.
What are the odds, right?
What are your thoughts there?
Well, I mean, again, I don't think you could really blame anybody for going either way. Two very good teams, again, like we talked about earlier, two teams that are in the top 10. So I really don't think you could have gone wrong, because it's a basketball, and it's going to come down to who wants it the most and who plays the best tonight. So either way, I don't blame you for choosing Harlingen or Edinburg.
Let's take a break. When we come back, it's the opening tip-off of the 2018-19 basketball season. Edinburg, Harlingen. Back after this on RioSportsLive.com.
Chewy's Custom Sports in San Benito was right there for you when it comes to supporting your teams, schools, and organizations. A veteran-owned business dedicated to helping out regardless of the team or season. Let Chewy's design your hats or shirts with state-of-the-art embroidery. Let Chewy's design and print your shirts for the next big game. How about custom engraved top-of-the-line mugs, buttons, banners? Call Chewy's Custom Sports today. Truck Techs in Harlingen is your source for lifts, wheels, and tires. Talking trucks of any size, any model, and any year. Specializing in accessories with top-of-the-line products to bring that special look to your truck in a professional way. Lifts, wheels, and tires, with financing available too. Call today or stop by Truck Techs in Harlingen. Chewy's Custom Sports in San Benito was